Okay, actually there was a little problem at the end of the last video that I caught when I was editing and playing it back. Um, well, let's just look real quick. Alright, so here you can see like we made the index file and its permissions are set correctly, but if I go back here to the server and try to, let's say I want to make a new file in HTML, right? I don't have permission to do that. I can't, and here's why. Again, this one file has the proper permissions and ownership, but if I back up one level and look at the permissions of the HTML directory, I can see that the owner is root and the group is root. That's why Greg can't create a new file there. Remember in the last video when I did sudo touch, I had to do sudo, which gave me root permission. I hope that kind of makes sense. So let's go back to the HTML directory, and there are a couple ways to do this. One would just be to try to change the directory, to change the permission of the HTML directory. That's not really good practice. This was sort of an experiment and or demonstration. A better way to do this would just be to create our own directory there. So to do that from the terminal, it's mkdir, make directory, and I'm going to sudo mkdir, make directory. I'm going to call mine Greg. You could come up with something better, I'm sure. Your name is fine, but I just mean like if I had different websites I was hosting, like I might call this make directory ddsites.net. Yeah, I think you get the idea. Okay, so now if I list, you can see that I have a directory. They're in blue here, and we see a D at the beginning showing it's a directory. But directory Greg is owned by root and group root, so we need to change that to match Greg and Apache, because just real clearly, if I reconnect, there's the directory, and I might think, yay, but I can't create a new file here because Greg does not have permission. And I hope you can see why. Okay, so let's change that. We'll have to do that as super user. Chum, Greg, Apache. And what do we want to apply that change to? Greg. Now that I'm looking at it, it's probably a bad choice for me to name the file that, just in case it looks confusing. It's just like when we did it in the first place. I want directory Greg to be owned by user Greg and group Apache. Okay. And now if I list, you can see that both of these have the same ownership, and I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to leave the directory permissions alone, and if I now go back to here, I should be able to create a new file. Yeah, cool. And I can edit that file, and I can delete that file. That is for realsies. And now things are set up correctly, and any kind of directories that you want to make, let's just drive the point home here. We want to make a new, again, I'm in the HTML directory, which is owned by root. So to do any new stuff here, I need to use sudo. This is good security, by the way, because, for example, a hacker can't somehow come in through the web server and make a new directory, because the hacker has to be authenticated as root and that's protected by some other password that I don't even ever use. I've dang near forgotten what it is. Okay, so let's just make another directory. I used it as an example. And when I list, again, I can see I haven't, that's a directory. Yes, I have a dot in the directory name. That's fine in Linux. But it, once again, by default, it's root and root. So I would want to change that. Yeah. That's, I'm changing the owner and group to, and what do I want to apply that to? Okay. You can see that's all set up correctly, and once again, if I go over here, I probably could have just used the refresh button, but that was more dramatic, I guess. You see I have something else that I could use. So several videos in the future, I'm going to show you how to set up virtual host. We need to look at Apache web configuration, and that will let us set up virtual hosts so that if from some other computer I make a request for, in this example, ddsites.net, it goes to that directory. Or if I made a request for Greg, it goes to that directory. And if I made a request for nothing, but just type in that IP address, it grabs that index. Okay, let's stop for now.